أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم ففهمنا سليمان وكلنا آتينا حكما وعلما رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم سبحانك لما وحنانيك ألم لا تنسني ولا تنسني الحمد لله أفضل الحمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آله وسائر النبيين والصالحين وسلم على وفقني واهدني وسددني واجمع لي بين الصواب والثواب وعذني من الخطأ والهرمان آمين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to another episode of Questions and Answers. I'm your host Amjad Muhammad, and I'll be with you for what remains of this hour, dealing with your questions, your queries and your curiosities. The number for you to dial is 01274 214299. That's 01274 214299, and we will inshallah take those calls here live in our Bradford studio, inshallah, all being well. If on the other hand you feel a little bit shy, feel a little bit nervous, and you prefer to email your question, then please do so on amjad.muhammad, amjad.mohad at alkhair.org. And therefore, inshallah, I will be able to deal with your questions via email as well. The screens are jumping around today, mashallah. Anyway, so I hope, inshallah, that you picked that up, 01274 214299, and also you picked up the email address as well, which is there on your screen as we speak. We have a shorter session because of a break which is going to be coming soon, so please do get on the phone sooner rather than later, as you will miss that opportunity and then you'd have to call after our short interval. It seems that we can't get away from the clutches of winter. I was just checking the weather for next week, and it's going to drop again to the minus figures, -3s and -2s, and that being, you know, pushing towards the middle of March. So would you have believed it? And then there's this whole debate around whether there's climate change taking place. I can bear witness to the fact that climate change is taking place. I don't remember the last time we got minus figures in March. It must have been a long time ago. And I do recall the time when we used to get, and you know, last year I think we reached something like nearly 30 odd, if not 40 degrees Celsius in parts of England. So yes, we are experiencing extreme temperature differences in winter, which tends to spread over a longer period of time, and also summer, which does. So, you know, we're looking forward to summer. But you know what's going to happen, don't you? As soon as it's the 1st of Ramadan, it will be the hottest day on record for March or something like that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does test us, and it will be cold up until that particular day. But you never know. And saying that, Ramadan isn't too far away. Ramadan is what, within touching distance, within 3 weeks away now. You know, so around this time, in 3 weeks' time, we may be actually getting ready to perform Taraweeh, if not doing them on this particular night right now. If not, it will be the night after. So it is all moving towards that time of the year in which we remember our zakat. I had a meeting earlier this morning discussing zakat and how we can provide support to our community of how they can calculate their zakat. So if you've not calculated your zakat, then please do call in. We can help you. Obviously, we can keep it anonymous. If you've got tens of thousands of pounds and you don't want everybody to know, especially your family members, then we can keep it anonymous and we can work your zakat out for you and provide you that information, inshallah. So it's not a problem. It's important, obviously, that you work your assets out correctly and you work out your liabilities correctly as well. So yes, so as I said, people are pondering about their particular zakat now, and also people were asking, phoning in, asking about the fidya, in terms of what the fidya is going to be for Ramadan. So what I would say is wait for Ramadan to start. There's no point in calculating it now, even though people may think, look, there's no chance of recovery. Then it is better for fidya to become fard, it is better for the fast of Ramadan to become fard upon you and then give fidya, rather than giving fidya in advance when those particular acts of worship have not become compulsory upon you. So lots of things occupying people's minds, lots of things people are trying to prepare for in advance, obviously with Ramadan approaching, so that they can maximize and benefit from it. I know that we were discussing with a few masajids certain projects as well, so the masjids will be very busy at this time of the year as well. So we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us sufficient life for us to reach Ramadan, and then also to maximize our reward in Ramadan. Whilst we wait for the phone call and we wait for the emails, I'm going to just check on our channel to see what questions we have received already. So let's go here. There's a question here. Assalamu alaikum. Can we visit the cemetery for a biology trip? In college, well, I assume this means in college rather than in college. In college, we are studying about plants and moss. I am a female and unsure whether this would be allowed or not. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's strange as well as interesting that you are visiting a cemetery to look for plants and moss. When we visit the cemetery, when I say we as Muslims, then we have certain purposes for why we visit the cemetery. One of the purposes is to make dua for the deceased. So we can go there, we can make dua, we can recite Quran as a form of sadaqah jariyah. We can do tasbihat, tahmidat, takbirat, and various type of azkar with the intention of putting it into the deceased good deeds as through the form of isali thawab. And the second thing is for us to reflect over the shortness of this life, to realize that this life is not forever, to realize that this life within a blink of an eye is going to go. I was just sat in class now with my students, and we were talking about a particular matter, and I was saying that, you chaps and you students have aged me. I said, I've been, mashallah, teaching at our school and our madrasa now for, around 20 years. So I said, you've absolutely fatigued me. You've taken everything out of me. I'm ready to retire. But it doesn't seem like 20 years, when I sit down and think about it, but it is 20 years. So these are the purposes. Now we know from the narration of the Prophet ﷺ is that he forbade the going to the graves for people generally. And the reason why he forbade it is because, unfortunately, people got involved in shirk, polytheistic practices, where they started to engage with the deceased in the grave in terms of asking them to intercede on their behalf or things of that nature, or asking things from them if they were a pious person. So because the people who had this incorrect belief, the Prophet ﷺ put a stop to it all. Once, obviously, their beliefs had been rectified, then the Prophet ﷺ permitted people to attend. And he used the general plural for people to attend. It is based on that the ulama say that it is permissible for people, for women, including with men, to visit the graves. Now, when it comes to visiting the graves, in your case, you're visiting it as more as a scientific experiment type of thing. You're not visiting it for this purpose. So that's one thing. That can this not be achieved? Can you not study about plants and moss by going somewhere else? Why is it that you have to study about plants and moss in the graveyard? And I guess if you're going to go to the graveyard, then it would probably be appropriate to look at the plants and the moss, not near the graves, but the grassy area in the graveyard, but around the graves, as in away from the graves, because it is contrary to etiquettes and manners that when we go to a graveyard, we're not kind of focusing on the two things that I told you to focus upon. The reason why some ulama still forbid women for going to the grave is because naturally, and this is a generalization, women tend to be more emotional than men. So what tends to happen is that if they do visit a loved one, a deceased one, then they start to cry, and it's no problem crying, but they cry uncontrollably and sometimes can wail and sometimes can sort of, raise their voice, maybe even scratch on their own face or tear at their clothes or, act in this manner, which is wrong. So therefore it is advised that even those ulama that do permit women to go, that they should go with a husband or a mahram, so that who can manage her if she starts to be, engage and behave in this way. So that is the answer to that particular query. So that gets dealt with there, alhamdulillah. We've not had anyone call through yet on 01274 214299. You still have several minutes to do so before we do go for a break. Similarly, you can email. I'm just going to quickly check the email. It don't have to be quickly, but I'm going to check it just to see if there's anything that has come in on the Amjad Muhammad at alkhair.org. No, there hasn't. Okay, so therefore, we don't have any specific questions to deal with, and therefore that means I can continue to go into some more questions that we have on our channel. I should be able to squeeze another question in. Assalamu alaikum Mufti Sahab, I pray all is well. If someone has eczema on their arms, what is the ruling for passing water over the area to make wudu if they're being advised not to? Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, all is well. Jazakumullah khairan for asking. I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you a good state. In terms of having a situation whereby water is a problem, then in your circumstances, if you can't wash, or this person's circumstances, if they cannot wash their arms, then can they at least have the water kind of like gently poured on their arms? If they can't have any water at all on their arms, can a damp hand be passed across their arms? To what extent can water be applied? If no water at all, then maybe they should look at tayammum, or they should look at maybe washing the face, but doing sort of tayammum on the arms or something of that nature. Reason why I say is that it really depends on to what extent water is not allowed. Is water allowed at all in some shape or form, or is it an absolute no-no? So we need to really get to grips of that. And then, is it the complete arm, literally, from elbow down to wrist, or including the hand, which can't have water on it at all? Or is it that it's parts of the arm, that some parts of the arm are okay and some parts of the arm aren't okay? Is it bandaged? So really these particular questions, once they're answered, then it will give light. Now, in terms of answering that, before you do get back and explain it, let me give you the sort of principle behind it, and then you can work it out accordingly. We should try to, at the very least, get some part of the arm washed, even if it means a small amount of water passing over it. If that's not possible, then we need to go to wiping, at least damp arm over it, hand over it. If that's not possible, then maybe we can see what alternatives there are. Maybe just wipe a hand over it, a damp hand over it, because I think that should be okay. As I said, I don't know the severity of this eczema. I don't know how badly it is. So you've got to assess the situation. Once you've assessed the situation, you will then make a decision based on that, and also the information that I've provided you in terms of trying your best to get as much of the arm damp or washed as possible without obviously inflicting any more pain or inflicting any harm to your arms. So that brings us to a pause, inshallah, because we are literally 90 seconds or so away from our break. So it's not going to be sufficient time to be able to explain anything or even pose a question. So we're not going to take that question. In fact, we're going to go for a break. And inshallah, we will return back from the break, and we will have a second session to go through what we need to go through, inshallah, with terms of the other questions. I would suggest not to phone in right now. We do not have enough time to take your call. But do have your calls ready. So when we return after the break, we can take some calls. I know Many people were thinking that there might be an appeal running in the evenings, but as it stands at the moment, for this week anyway, we will be having questions and answers for the 3 days, inshallah. And then next week, I guess, is another week, and we'll take each week as it comes. So inshallah, without further ado, I'm just checking the time that we're on. We're going now, inshallah, for that short break, and as I said, we will return forthwith and deal with more queries either from your phone, via email, or through the Darul Ifta group that we have, where we've dealt with 2 questions already. We have a numerous number of questions on there that have been sort of piling up over the last few weeks, because we've been on air sometimes and not on air sometimes. So this will give us some opportunity to get back to some people who have been waiting patiently for their responses. So anyway, see you in a few minutes' time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.